Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. Ukraine War News Update, third part thereof for the 23rd of December 2024. This is going to be quite a jam-packed Ukraine War News Update, geopolitics news, because an awful lot is going on. And we will go slightly left field into US politics concerning some interesting global issues, should I say. Right, I'll start with Zelensky saying Ukraine and the UK discuss a 100-year partnership. That's a pretty substantial deal agreement to be made between the two allies. President Zelensky spoke with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, addressing support for Ukrainian weapons production, troop training, sanctions on Russia's shadow tanker fleet, and the upcoming JEF summit in Estonia. 100-year partnership. I don't know what you make of that. That's a lot can change in 100 years. Nonetheless, I suppose it shows UK's commitment to supporting Ukraine. Now, Moldova has enacted a state of emergency as the country gears up for an energy crisis at the start of 2025, following the end of Ukraine's obligations to transport Russian gas through its territory. So Moldova, no doubt, would have profited from having gas, and I don't know if oil is part of that. No, gas, I think, transiting through Ukraine. That's, I presume, the same gas that Hungary and Slovakia get, and Moldova not getting that provides quite an issue for them. So I wonder how that will be sorted out. Now, here we have an infographic that is pretty useful. It shows Russian influence in Europe and all the different parties that are supported by Russia. So, for example, Germany, you've got Die Linke. Actually, I would add BSW to that, which is Sarah Wagenknecht's party. She came from Die Linke, which is the left. But they are a smaller party than AfD, that's now up to 19% popularity there. So that is a real challenge. You've got Rassemblement National in France, Reconquête as well. You got Vlaams Belang in Belgium. That's very similar to AfD there. Podemos in Spain here, apparently. I would have thought Vox would be on there in Spain. Forza Italia, you got all these different countries and all these different parties in these countries that are definitely compromised. Confederacja, anyway, the Polish far right party. So you got Law and Justice Party is a populist right party in Poland, but interestingly they are very pro-Ukraine. You have to go slightly further to the right still to get to this other party that then starts showing itself to be a little under the influence of Russia. Interesting, it throws the Conservatives in there. I wouldn't say that's the case anymore. There were thoughts that possibly the Conservatives, because they have historically been compromised to some degree by Russia in terms of handing out honours and whatnot to people associated with Russian oligarchy, and you've got London being seen as the money laundering capital of the world for Russian money, particularly. There were thoughts that Boris Johnson might go the other way at the outbreak of the war, but actually he went proper strongly in support of Ukraine. So I don't know that I'd include the Conservatives there anymore at all. But it gives you an understanding, or it gives you a bit of a window into how much influence possibly the Russians are exerting on European political parties. It's just Russia are a huge threat, and I don't think many in Europe really realise the extent to which Russia is interfering worldwide in elections. Anton Gerashchenko here says, attention, Estonia. And this is another one of these insane propagandists tirade on national television. So Russian propagandist Ko Sayan says, quote, what are they going to protect? Their 10 Estonian acres? So he's talking about Estonia here. I have two options for what happens after 2028. Either Estonia will be safe within the Russian Federation, or Estonia will no longer exist. I mean, the Russians are threatening everyone on the edge of the Russian Federation. It's insane that they're getting away with this kind of rhetoric on national television. Just, if you want to know what the Russians think, go and listen to them, and they will tell you. Absolutely incredible. Now, a couple of things here. So this is Robert Fico meeting with Putin. This is the power of artificial intelligence, that you can do this kind of video, right? That may seem quite funny to us, and it is funny. You know, Robert Fico does seem to have gone to Moscow to meet with Putin, to cap in hand, and to whinge about not getting gas through Ukraine. But actually, I do worry about the future of knowing what's real and knowing what's not. This is what I've talked to you about before as being an epistemic crisis. We don't know what is right and what is wrong, what is truth and what is falsity. And that gives us a great deal of confusion, and then we start to distrust everything. And then we have a malaise of trust, where we just don't know what we can trust and what we can't, and then we will lose trust in institutions. You know, eventually chaos ensues. So, I mean, that's worst case scenario, but we need to be really careful about how we deal with everything that we are going to be confronted with, visually, audio, because we know that AI can now manipulate audio to make people sound like they do. You know, it replicates people's voices, and then you can put words into their mouths. Or if it's not directly into their mouths, like the other day, we saw that woman from Imperial College London talking about the environment, and then it cuts to images, and then her voice continues, and then she starts slagging off Ukraine and espousing support for Russia, but it's not really her voice. But what you'll get very soon, if not already, is AI being able to generate voice and generate lip movement. And so you'll literally be watching stuff that you won't know if it's real or not. You'll have no way to know. And you might have your own prime minister coming out, or president coming out and saying something, and you'll be like, I don't know if that was really my prime minister or my president. I don't know if that's what they actually said. I mean, it's really egregious. That's horrible. Would they say something like that? Is this true? And then you just have no way of being able to differentiate fact from fiction. It's really challenging times ahead for us. So as funny as these things can be, it is a reflection of where we're at the moment. Okay. Now, Moscow begins providing energy to Georgia's Russian-occupied Abkhazia region. So they had those issues previously to do with the Russian law or law concerning the Abkhazian territory, and Russians being able to come in and buy that territory and so on and so forth, by land. That was then repudiated by the people who lived there, by the Abkhazians. Even though they're pro-Russian, they don't want the Russians to be able to do that. But Russia has begun providing electricity aid to Georgia's Russian-held Abkhazia region amid a major energy crisis there, local authorities told the Russian TASS news agency. So maybe Russia trying to curry favour with those who live there again. Okay. As massive protests are on the horizon in Serbia today, Vučić is panicking. So Alexander Vučić, the president there, who is very much, I think, pro-Russia, although tries to straddle that fence to have a foot in both gardens. But he says Ivana Stradner, the expert in the area, says to blackmail the West and distract from a domestic chaos. Now they threaten with a war in Bosnia and Herzegovina and the succession of the Republika Srpska. So you've got issues going on there that can act as distractions for domestic discontent. Just another old script by Dodik, Vučić and the Kremlin. You know, distract from issues by blaming other areas and fomenting discontent and possibly even military activity towards them. So yeah, watch Serbia. At the moment, you've got these huge tens of thousands of Serbs, huge rallies in Belgrade against the president of Serbia, Alexander Vučić. The rally organised, says Anton Gerashenko, by students and farmers' unions the rally was part of a wider movement demanding accountability for the collapse of a railway station roof that killed 15 people last month. So in reality, so this all kind of was sparked off by a collapse that was, I don't think, dealt with well enough by the government, and now people have come out and sort of really having a go at Vucic, and maybe other issues have been thrown in here. I think this is good news. I think Serbia is a bit like Georgia, is a bit like Hungary, is a bit like Slovakia, where you've got huge amounts of Russian influence, and you've got others there trying desperately to hold on to democratic ideals and whatnot. Now, Russia's threat to Europe, in that context, by the way, is quote, much wider than we imagine. And this is the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, who, as someone who is in coalition with two parties that are featuring on this infographic, so we go back to here, you got Forza Italia there, which is one of her coalition party members, and then you've got Matteo Salvini's party, which is La Liga, there. They are both in bed with the Russians, and her party, Brothers of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, is in coalition with those two parties. But her right-wing party, Brothers of Italy, doesn't, or at least she doesn't seem to be a pro-Russian at all. So she's holding back the Russian influence from the Italian government fairly successfully there. But it's quite a threat she has just within her own coalition. And now Russia's threat to Europe extends beyond defense to illegal immigration and cybersecurity, said Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni on the 22nd during an international meeting in Finland. So she was up at this meeting with this kind of joint group of countries. I mean, Greece was there. You had Finland and Sweden, Greece, Italy, and I forget another country as well. So interesting combination of countries meeting up in the Nordics there. Anton Gerashenko talks about how YouTube is effectively blocked in Russia. About 80% of Russians are unable to access the platform, Russian Telegram channels report. Residents of Moscow say that YouTube works only with several paid VPNs. And that earlier Roskomnadzor said that it seems grounds to take measures against YouTube. So this is average daily traffic for YouTube in Russia. It's absolutely bottomed out there. There's a major crisis. There's a right trough of usage. Now, we're also hearing that, I don't have it here. Where do I have it? We hear also that Russia might well ban WhatsApp as well. And that will be pretty significant. You're starting to see Russian citizens' ability to access free Western media be curtailed almost by the day, as the Russians are closing that net, or the Kremlin is closing that net around the Russian population to make sure that they are a closed society without access to the outside world. Rather like the Iron Curtain that existed previously, we're now getting a virtual Iron Curtain being brought down, drawn across the edge of Russia. It is also the case that they have long wanted to replace the World Wide Web with their own closed internet system, so that they can house all of their government agencies in that system. It'll be safer for them, and none of their population will be able to access anything outside of that system. So they will not be members of the worldwide kind of internet community. So that's moving in that direction. Now, breaking news. Libya's Grand Mufti, Sheikh Sadiq al-Ghariani, has called for all Libyans to unite and kick out the Russians of the country. Now, this is interesting because the Russians appear to be moving their military equipment from Syria to Libya. It would be fantastic if the Russians can be met with a stern resistance to them being there. It's worrying that Libya is being infiltrated with this Russian influence. Now, Iran is in darkness as a catastrophic energy crisis has struck, according to the New York Times. Government offices in Iran are closed or operating on reduced hours. Schools and colleges are operating online only. Highways and shopping malls have been plunged into darkness, and industrial plants have been cut off, bringing production to a near standstill. Why am I mentioning this? Iran is part of the axis of evil, if you like. Iran, North Korea, China, and Russia. Iran produces goods for Russia in terms of drones and whatnot, although news is that I think Russia is able to produce 2,000 Shahid drones themselves in Russia, so they no longer really need Iran in the way they did. Despite having one of the world's largest reserves of natural gas, says military news Ukraine, and crude oil, Iran is in the midst of a full-scale energy crisis, which can be attributed to years of sanctions, mismanagement, aging infrastructure, wasteful consumption, and targeted attacks by Israel. The country has been virtually without electricity for much of the last week, and the resulting damage to industry running into the tens of billions of dollars. So Iran might well be in a spot of bother here. As Thierry Schmidlin of my channel says, I like such wonderful news on Sunday's lunchtime. He's not a big fan of Iran, clearly. Right, moving on. We're going to move to Elon Musk. And why I bring him up is because his activities in supporting the AfD are going to be really divisive. And if AfD get more and more support in Germany for the elections in February, then you are likely to see a challenge to Ukrainian support from within the Bundestag, from within the German parliament. It's a real worry. Now, I've been trying to work out what the hell is going on vis-a-vis this Saudi doctor who mowed down the people at Magdeburg Christmas market. It seems like the prevailing idea is he really is six of one, half dozen of the other. Some are saying that he is supportive of Elon Musk, AfD, and like Tommy Robinson and people like that. But other people saying that that was all a front and actually he is an Islamist. But then why would a non-Islam, like why would a ex-Muslim mow down people at a Christmas market? I just don't get, something is weird here. Anyway, what's fascinating is this is the latest article from, say, The Guardian. But it seems that the mainstream media outlets are shying away from talking about his motivations at the moment. And that's probably safe because no one knows, right? So this is the latest. Saudis have asked for extradition of the suspect in the Magdeburg attack. So Saudis want him back, right? Riyadh warned Germany many times about the danger posed by Taleb Jawad al-Abdul Mohsen, sources say. But when you read this article, there is apps I can't find here. I'm sure there is no talk about actually what his motivations were. I think they're holding back now because there are so many rumours flying around from each side. There's talking about whether it was preventable, which is a different question. That's one about the administration or the government services as opposed to the person himself. Talks about, you know, who died. Tried to get threat analysis on him, but it doesn't really talk about, you know, what drove him to do what he did. This article kind of veers away from that, which is interesting because, okay, now we get onto something pretty funky. So first of all, there's a reaction against this. So there have been, for example, a parade of 2,000 far-right activists and neo-Nazis convening in Magdeburg, calling for the liberation of the German people and urging the remigration of foreigners. So this is a favoured demand of the AfD. So this is giving grist to the mill for the far right in Germany, and AfD are going, no matter what inclined that person to do what he did. I think the narrative has already been written by AfD, so this will benefit them irrespective of whether he was actually anti-AfD or not, or pro-AfD more likely. So even if this guy ends up being the person that some are claiming he is, he's for Elon Musk and for the AfD, they will still manage to be able to, I think, generate publicity and support for that. Now, we had this situation where Elon Musk came out and wrote that tweet in support of AfD. So only the AfD can save Germany. I think he's now done that again as well, because I'm sure I saw another one from him saying exactly the same thing from only last night. Anyway, such articles like this in Huffington Post show how much of an issue this is. So he wrote that tweet. Musk made the comment in response to the video from far-right activist Naomi Seipt, in which she slammed Friedrich Merz, who leads the Christian Democratic Union of Germany party, CDU. Now, they are like a right-wing party, but obviously not right enough for Naomi Seipt, and it appears Elon Musk, and is reportedly leading the polls to become Germany's next chancellor. Seipt claimed in her post that Merz is horrified by the idea that Germany should follow Elon Musk's and Argentinian President Javier Milei's example of reforming the country with drastic public spending cuts. Musk has become a close confidant of Trump's, who previously said he would name him co-director of the yet-to-be-created Federal Advisory Group, the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, that will purportedly claim to slash supposedly wasteful government spending. So that's why he's potentially largely in support of what AFD is doing the same. But actually, it goes further than that when you look at his anti-immigrant rhetoric as well. So Musk appears naturally drawn to the AFD, whose nationalist and anti-immigrant rhetoric mirrors Trump's, and he reshared footage of last year on X from a pro-AFD account that criticised Germany for subsidising efforts to rescue refugees from drowning in the Mediterranean. The German Foreign Office replied directly at the time to note it's called saving lives. That tells you where Elon Musk is concerning these things. In September, the AfD became the first far-right party to win a major state election in Germany since World War II. Its leader in Thuringia, Björn Höcke, was convicted for the second time in July for knowingly using a Nazi slogan, "Everything for Germany," at a political event. Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, shared his outrage about Musk's endorsement on Friday on Twitter, writing, "The out-of-touch billionaire running the incoming Trump administration announced last night that he enthusiastically supports a neo-Nazi party in Germany. What the F? None of this is okay. Everyone, none of this is normal." And then you had Adam Kinzinger also saying similar, as I reported yesterday. So you got Chancellor Olaf Scholz addressing Musk's AfD endorsement during an unrelated press conference on Friday, said freedom of speech does not apply to multi-billionaires, but that it doesn't prevent him from saying things are not right, as per Bloomberg. So on and so forth. Anyway, that's more of the context, because it gets weirder still. So, okay, only AfD can save Germany, and he said that was the 22nd at 6:38 p.m. Okay, so that's in answer here to libs of TikTok. In this case, German citizens are getting killed and raped by migrants. They're being slaughtered at Christmas markets. Of course, we don't know what the reason for that was. If they speak out against mass migration, they will face harsher penalties than actual migrants committing crime, etc., etc. So the libs of TikTok are your typical far-right, anti-woke, blah, 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 that Elon Musk absolutely loves, the libs of TikTok. But they then produce this really anti-immigration rhetoric that is super problematic, and Musk is jumping on and supporting that. And of course, as Darth Putin points out, how it started, Elon Musk said, for Twitter to deserve public trust, it must be politically neutral, which effectively means upsetting the far right and the far left equally. That's what he said originally in 2022, and now in 2024, Elon Musk says the traditional political parties in Germany have utterly failed the people. AfD is the only hope for Germany. That's what he says now, and previously he said, "Oh no, we should be politically neutral." Yeah, whatever. So anyway, this is where it gets funky. So this is the funky bit. The guy who did that mowing down the people at the Christmas market, who had previously given advocacy for Elon Musk, saying everything that Elon Musk says is correct and blah blah blah, as I reported yesterday, Twitter, or X, took down his account and have now reinstated it, right? After reinstating the terrorist profile, they've deleted all the posts before November 2024. They also deactivated search functions on his profile, so you can only see his last 2 months of posts. Why? Probably because it helps the far-right pro-Israel narrative that he is not an ex-Muslim atheist, nor is he a fan of the AfD or Elon Musk. There were 2016 posts proving the opposite before Elon Musk deleted them. Now look at this quote tweet and a quoted thread, you'll understand the plot. So Elon Musk is now coming out saying that the mainstream media are lying about this guy, but it appears that he's deleted what this guy's previously said. So Elon Musk saying legacy media lies again when they're reporting that suspect in Germany identified as Islamophobic and supportive of Elon Musk. But Mensch Osint here says Elon Musk deleted all the evidences available and is now accusing the legacy media of misinformation. This is insane manipulation. After reinstating, as mentioned, he then reinstated his account, but taking stuff away from it. So War Monitor here then says, holy S, this effort deleted the terrorist Twitter account, which had evidence via thousands of tweets supporting Israel, Judaism, and figures like himself, and is now spreading the false idea suggesting that he did this attack in the name of Islam. What a horrible POS. Talking about Elon Musk. I don't know exactly what was written in this guy's account, so pinch of salt and all that, but lots of people are going mad about this. So Elon reinstating the Twitter account of the Saudi ex-Muslim attacker after quietly deleting all the tweets in which he expressed support for figures like Geert Wilders, Israel, and the AFD, and as if no one would notice, is absolutely insane. So there you get that. And Mehdi Hassan, then, who's a journalist himself, says the Musk model, just accuse everyone else of lying while you tell demonstrable lies again and again, and millions believe it. We are in an unbelievably dangerous moment for democracy right now, with the entire public square polluted and undermined by the tech bosses. That's his response to that. Okay. It's interesting. So now moving from that issue onto this idea that Elon Musk is the president behind Vice President Donald Trump. That apparently Trump is, and we know he's getting thinking about this because he's actually mentioned it. So you're starting to get to go on to like the AI generated videos. Here's an AI generated videos of Elon Musk as president and Trump behind as a butler delivering a drink to him. Now, what we hear is Trump saying this. Worth a listen.
And he got over 2,000 units. That's a lot. And they flooded it with Starlink, and it was so good. It saved a lot of lives, so we want to thank him. But no, he's not going to be president, that I can tell you. And I'm safe. You know why? He can't be. He wasn't born in this country.
So, funny, he's thinking about it. So this idea, and if I was the Democratic strategist, which they are doing this, I'd be campaigning on making Trump realize that Elon Musk is really the president. So they should have adverts come out that Trump sees that talks about Musk being president and him being his lackey, because that will annoy him and drive a wedge between the two. And I'd do the same with Trump and Putin as well. Now, the idea that he's saying I'm safe because he can't be president because he's born in South Africa shows you that he's considering this. He is worried that I think that relationship between the two is doomed because Trump will not allow him to be around for so long. But the problem is Musk has this incredibly powerful tool of the entire Twitter platform, X, that if Trump gets rid of Elon Musk, Musk can turn Twitter against Trump. Hugely powerful. And he's also the richest man in the world. So there is that too. So I'm safe, says Bill Kristol, quoting Trump, is the tell of how anxious Trump is. And the idea Elon's going to let a random old constitutional provision stand in his way is ridiculous. This is Trump as Lenin, reassuring himself Stalin will be no problem. And of course, Stalin was. As Pekka Kallianiemi here, it says someone's getting scared. Quite incredible that. Now, then we go on to, this is where it gets even funkier. So Elon wants US policy towards China to be Beijing friendly because he has huge business interests in China. But an equally important factor is that Elon is genuinely fond of China's pro-capital, anti-labor authoritarianism. Elon and the CCP are ideologically aligned. Right. Elon Musk, why am I talking about this? Because Elon Musk has managed to get the budget changed so that it dropped a bunch of things that were a little bit harsh on China and investment in China. And that suddenly got dropped out, the third budget version that eventually got voted in and accepted last minute. And Elon Musk ruined that first one that had the harshness towards China, thus allowing for a diluted version. So people are now saying, hang on, an unelected oligarch has lined his own pockets by changing the US budget towards China. So Trump sounds like Putin in his comments regarding Panama, and we're going to come on to Panama in a second. It's mental. So Panama, Canada, Greenland, and Mexico bending to China to benefit Musk's businesses while threatening allies is neither strong, admirable, morally sound, nor in the best interest of the United States. I want to remind you of this. This analysis came out as soon as Trump won the election. Analysis from The Guardian by Dan Milmo, how Trump's new star Elon Musk stands to benefit from his presidency. There are already signs of return to the Tesla chief's political investment, and there could be more to come. Right, Elon Musk's contribution to Trump's victory in the US election will profit him immensely. The publication writes that Musk's fortune is 264 billion. It's now something like 430 billion. So he's already profited to the tune of 200 billion, maybe, in wealth. So he can easily afford to donate more than 100 million to the campaign of his fellow billionaire. The article says there are already signs that Musk's investment in Trump's campaign has already begun to return. For example, Tesla shares rose nearly 15% in Wall Street trading, and the company's market capitalization is at $900 billion. So going back to Yoni Escola's thread here, President-elect Donald Trump has insisted that Panama lower fees on the Panama Canal, and we'll return to this in a second, or return it to US control, claiming that the Central American nation is imposing exorbitant prices on American shipping and naval vessels. Trump often criticizes and threatens allies while expressing admiration for adversaries. Currently, he's targeting Canada, Mexico, Greenland, and Panama with his threats. There's nothing morally acceptable, tough, or admirable about this, especially considering the GOP is bending to China to safeguard Musk's interests in the country at the same time. Tesla, led by Musk, and this is what you need to know. And I reported this ages ago, by the way, when I was talking about why he switched on supporting Russia from supporting Ukraine earlier on in the war, because he needs Russian natural resources, and likewise in China. You need to ask yourself why Tesla is the only foreign automaker operating a factory in China without a local joint venture. Tesla, what does he get back from China? Why is his entity the only one that is operating independently in China? That needs to be understood. This year, Tesla also established a battery plant near its Shanghai factory and plans to develop the sell self-driving vehicle technology in China. If Trump wants to appear tough, he should focus on US adversaries rather than yielding to them and attacking allies. He needs to stop listening to those with business interests in China, as it makes him seem weak and unstable, ultimately undermining the US. This is a real worry. Musk is manipulating the presidency or manipulating the US and its bloody budgets in order to line his own pockets. As Adam Kinzinger says, yep, Musk needs the canal for China, and Trump is doing what Musk demands. President Musk does a lot of shipping with China. Trump is just doing what he's told by his boss, says Alex Cole, with regard to the shenanigans going on with the Panama Canal. We'll return to that in a second. Let's go to the US more directly. Tucker Carlson has just come out, before we get to continue the stuff about... in fact, no, let's go there. We'll leave Tucker Carlson because, my goodness, that's insane as well. The flow would make sense if we go to here. So Donald Trump says it's absolutely necessary for the United States to annex Greenland. Okay, Donald Trump has said this. I'm pleased to announce Ken Howery as a choice for United States ambassador, blah, 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 Ken, blah, 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 blah. Then he goes on to say, for purposes of national security and freedom throughout the world, the United States of America feels that the ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity. Ken will do a wonderful job in representing the interests of the United States. Thank you, Ken, and congratulations. Okay, so he's going to be ambassador to Sweden. By the way, Greenland is kind of run by Denmark, but nonetheless, he's now saying we are going to take... He had said stuff about Greenland during his last tenure. So, okay, he wants Greenland. He wants a trade war with Canada. He wants a trade war with Mexico. He wants a trade war with the EU. And he wants a trade war with China. Trump is threatening at Panama again. The guy's completely unhinged. He has no concept of foreign policy whatsoever, says Harry Sisson. So, Donald Trump says we'll see about that. President of Panama responds to Trump's threats. What are Trump's threats? Right, Trump has threatened to take control of the Panama Canal. This is absolutely incredible. So, for purposes, so that's the Greenland issue, but also the Panama Canal, where Trump has said, welcome to the United States Canal. Trump advocates for US control over Greenland, and also, previously Trump expressed a desire to reclaim the Panama Canal, which is handed over to Panama in 1999, and even suggested making Canada the 51st state if trade deficits and border issues were not resolved. So this is what he claimed about Panama Canal. The Panama Canal is considered a vital national interest for the United States due to its critical role to America's economy and national security. A secure Panama Canal is crucial for US commerce and rapid deployment of the Navy from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and drastically cuts shipping times to US ports. The United States is the number one user of the canal, with over 70% of all transits heading to or from US ports. Considered one of the wonders of the modern world, the Panama Canal opens for business 110 years ago and was built at huge cost to the US in lives and treasure. 38,000 American men died from infected mosquitoes in the jungles during construction. Teddy Roosevelt, and President of the United States, was president at the time of its building and understood the strength of naval power and trade. When Jimmy Carter foolishly gave it away for $1 during his term in office, it was solely for Panama to manage, not China or anyone else. It was likewise not given for Panama to charge the United States, its Navy and corporations doing business within our country. Exorbitant prices and rates of passage. Our Navy and commerce have been treated in a very unfair and injudicious way. The fees being charged by Panama are ridiculous, especially knowing the extraordinary generosity that has been bestowed to Panama by the US. This complete rip-off of our country will immediately stop. So he's starting to strongman Panama because he's not happy with how much money Panama is sort of charging. Panama has then responded, and then Donald Trump has said, we'll see about that, to the Panamanian president, and then says, welcome to the United States, with a US flag over the Panama Canal. Now, the Panamanian mayor, so Justin, the mayor of Panama City, Mayor Mizrachi, responds to Trump's threat to seize control of the Panama Canal. Dear Donald Trump, in my time as mayor of Panama City, I've learned that collaboration is key to economic development and prosperity. Panama is one of the few countries in Latin America that shares the same democratic and capitalist values with the United States. Interesting. We are and have been allies for over a century, an alliance that is not only based on common interests, but more importantly on shared values. Your triumphant victory last month marked a new era. As such, I'm excited to see how the United States will thrive under his leadership and team during your tenure. However, threatening a strategic ally and its sovereignty will likely have the opposite effect. President Molina's position on the issue is clear. There will be no retaking of the canal or any Panamanian territory by the United States or any other country. The only thing achieved is to unite the Panamanian people. You will find in Panama and its president a willingness to sit down as allies to discuss a path forward that reflects our values and our shared alliance. If you wish to choose another path, you will find a president and a people willing to stand strong in their country. We are not and will never be the 51st state. You've got this growing issue between the US and virtually every bloody other country on earth at the moment, as Trump is going around strong-arming everyone to try and bully them into doing whatever. He wants the EU to buy more oil and gas, or he's going to put tariffs on the EU. He wants Panama to lower prices for transit across the Panama Canal, or he's going to retake the Panama Canal. He wants Greenland for himself. He wants tariffs on Mexico and Canada. He wants, so on. This is insane. And then, one of the people who I've been criticizing, Elbridge Colby, since the beginning of the war, because he's absolutely not supportive of Ukraine in the way he should be. Now, I'm profoundly honoured, says Elbridge Colby, and grateful to President Trump for nominating me to serve as his Undersecretary for Defence for Policy. If confirmed by the Senate, it would be an exceptional privilege to work with Pete Hegseth and his team to implement President Trump's policy, etc., etc. This is super troubling because, as John Ridge says, who knows his Ukraine stuff, if confirmed, the cheese, Elbridge Colby, will be one of the most catastrophic appointments for US national security imaginable. This is a bad news guy. Tulsi Gabbard only edges him out by virtue of espionage. Elbridge Colby is bad for Ukraine, right? So Trump keeps coming up with terrible, terrible nominees. Now, Elbridge Colby has then come out and said the Panama Canal is considered a vital national asset for the United States due to its critical role to America's economy and national security. A secure Panama Canal is crucial for US commerce, blah, blah, blah. Donald Trump's come out and said that. Elbridge Colby has come out and said, yes, this. So that whole tweet that we just saw, or Truth Social, no, I think it's a tweet, that Trump said about the Panama Canal before, Elbridge Colby has said, I agree with this, which is signaling to Trump, yep, I'm going to be your man. So in other words, you've got a guy possibly who's going to be Deputy Defense Undersecretary of Defense for Policy being up for retaking the Panama Canal. As Alexander Clarkson said, another of many data points that indicate how foreign policy professionals now seeking favour in the court of Donald Trump will have no qualms about supporting and justifying his actions if he decides to order airstrikes or special forces raids against targets in Mexico. So there's been this talk about military raids into Mexico due to people smuggling and fentanyl and etc., etc. It's all going nuts. So, to surmise, since the election, Trump has been discussing annexing Canada as the 51st state, seizing the Panama Canal, buying or taking Greenland, invading Mexico, abandoning Ukraine, starting trade wars with our allies, that's the EU, Canada and Mexico for starters, and a trade war with China for good measure. Putin is getting what he paid for, says Republicans Against Trump. Yes, I'm concentrating a lot on what's going on with the incoming Trump administration, but this is serious. When you have someone threatening all these things, it's going to be a massive distraction from Ukraine, and it's exactly what Russia would want. My goodness. Now, Jim Stewartson adds to this General Mike Flynn, who is a MAGA absolute wingnut, who said, General Mike Flynn, Elon Musk, while I appreciate everything you're doing and have done to literally save humanity, America has been footing the bill for European defence for over 75 years, if not 100 plus years. The action steps, along with holding to account certain people once Donald Trump assumes the presidency, must be swift, and they cannot run on normal timelines. Nothing is normal. America cannot keep this global pace up while we're being destroyed internally by corrupt globalist leaders. In 1838, a young Abraham Lincoln stated that no foreign enemy will take a drink from the Ohio or a step on the Blue Ridge with a Napoleon for a commander. If America dies, it will be by our own suicide. Let's not allow that to happen. And that is in response to Elon Musk saying, why are American taxpayers funding a quarter of European defense spending? This doesn't make sense, especially when we have a massive budget deficit and unsustainable growth in debt. Doesn't understand the Cold War, doesn't understand why the US needs a return on investment in supporting European global security, economic stability, in order that the US gets what it wants with its strategic objectives in mind. Right? This is to not understand the Cold War. Why is the US in Europe? Why does it have bases in what would have been West Germany? Well, the Cold War, which was predominantly your issue, ideological war with Russia, with the Soviet Union. So why are we doing this? Understand history, and then maybe think about, well, why are we still doing it? There's a discussion to be had, but don't just go, right, we need to cancel it. You need to understand what you're getting back for that investment into European security and employing all your soldiers to be operational inside Europe. By all means, get the frick out the UK with your nuclear missiles at Lakenheath or wherever they are in East Anglia. Yeah, if you don't want to do that, then yeah, you go and take all your stuff back to the US, but don't expect to be able to do what you want in Europe then with your nuclear missiles. Don't expect to have a presence in Europe and therefore any kind of influence in European affairs and global affairs and your affairs as a member of the global society. So, you've got to understand that it's a little bit more complicated than why are we spending a bunch of money in a country that isn't our country. The Ukraine war being a really good example. And then Tucker Carlson, I'm going to throw this in at the end of the video.
There's something profoundly wrong. I don't understand it exactly, but I watched him make
Mike Johnson,
the number
speaker.
one priority of his speakership funding Ukraine.
No, it wasn't. Mike Johnson's number one priority wasn't funding Ukraine. However, he did allow the Congress to vote on it because, that's democratic. You are such an idiot.
Speakership funding Ukraine.
He is paid up
without any audit at all
by the Kremlin
at a time when the U.S. border was open. The United States itself was being invaded, and his priority was
Shut
protecting the borders of a country whose language he doesn't speak,
Right.
knows nothing about, and it's not America.
You don't know anything about it. You don't seem to understand what the hell's going on in the world, or you're just being paid by the Kremlin. Remember, your father sits on the board of the lobbying organization that lobbies for Viktor Orban. That's your family, mate.
And it's not the only country that whose interests he's put above ours. And so, I don't want to overstate it. I think it's a kind of treason.
Yeah.
And it's very common in Washington. He's not the only one, but once you see that, then you lose all faith in a man. And there's something.
So accusing Mike Johnson of being a traitor, of treason, for putting to a vote something in Congress. He's not deciding it himself. He's like, you can go and vote for that. That's treason. And they actually vote for it. So what about them being all treacherous? Just, I hate Tucker Carlson. He's such a swear word. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough from me. You've heard enough from me. But isn't it... This is one of those videos that went far wider than Ukraine. But trying to put all these pieces of the jigsaw together. You got the US getting involved in all of these places around the world, and yet saying we need to retreat from this, we need to retreat from that, we need to isolate ourselves, but at the same time saying we're going to take Panama, we're going to take Greenland, and we're going to start trade wars with everyone, from our neighbours to China, with the EU in between. You're like, oh my goodness, the world is going crazy. What do we make of all this? How much will this affect Ukraine? It will have definitely a negative effect on Ukraine. Just, my goodness. Anyway, I'm going to go and pull the rest of my hair out and maybe search for a mulled wine somewhere. Take care, everybody. I'll speak to you probably tomorrow. Oh, and please like, subscribe, and share, and help out with the Trucks Under the Christmas Tree campaign. Details linked below.